Alright, in today's video, you're going to learn the difference between 30 FPS, 60 FPS, 120 FPS and above. FPS stands for frames per second. It is one of the most important factors in videography. As a filmmaker, content creator, you must understand frames per second. But before I go further, I want to show you 3 different videos where I shot one with 30 frames per second, the other one 60, the other one 120, so that you can see the major difference. Then I will now break down what frames per second is and which one you should always use to shoot different scenes. Let's get it started. Can you tell the differences between those 3 videos? Now let me explain. The first video you saw is 30 frames per second. And you can see it's normal to the eye. The motion, the movement is normal to the eye. While the second video you saw is 60 frames per second. Now, 60 frames per second is kind of smoother to the eye. I will illustrate this to you soon. It's smoother to the eye compared to 30 frames per second. And then when we go further to slow it down, we can get 2 times slow motion. Now, some of you do this. You shoot at 30 frames per second, which is your base frame rate, and then you still slow it down. Don't you know that when you slow down a 30 frames video, you are literally telling the video to play at 15 frames per second, assuming you do 2 times slow motion. And then when you do 3 times slow motion, that video is playing at 10 frames per second. It doesn't make sense. The most natural, realistic looking motion to the eye, to the human, is 24 frames per second. And that is why most cinematic videos you see today, they shoot them at 24 frames per second. If you're shooting with your smartphone, you can equally use 24, 25 FPS, even if they are not in your normal camera app, by installing a third-party app. But let me assume you're using 30 FPS as your base frame rate. No problem. Don't slow down that 30 FPS. One of the scenarios where we shoot in higher frames, whether 60, 120, 240, is to get what? Slow motion. So when you want to get that smooth cinematic movement, you use slow motion. That means shooting at higher frames per second. Another scenario where we use higher frames per second is when you want to capture fast motion, fast movement. It could be sports activities like football. Most football videos, they shoot them in 60 FPS so that they can give you that, fast movement. You can't capture fast movement with 24 FPS. Your natural motion is what 24, 25, 30 FPS kind of gives you. But note this, when you shoot with 60 FPS or 120 FPS, your video does not automatically slow down. You have to slow this down yourself with intention. Now, see the maths. If you divide 30 FPS by 2, you have 15 frames per second. It doesn't make sense. Your base frame rate is 30 frames per second. And if you are shooting at 60 frames per second and you want to slow a scene, then let me say I shot a particular scene that I want to slow down, it means that I am dividing that frame into 2. 60 divided by 2 is 30. So you see, I'm coming back to my base frame, but I'm kind of, still maintaining that smooth motion I want, that cinematic slow motion I need, okay? Now, if you even want a smoother video, you now shoot 120 FPS. And if you divide 120 FPS, if you want to convert it to your base frame rate, which is 30 FPS, you divide it by 4. That means I am doing what? 4 times slow motion. Now, before we go further, frames per second is, the backbone of videos. Before the invention of modern videography, videos were formerly called motion picture. And it kind of makes sense because videos are made up of frames, pictures. Imagine I stack up 30 pictures on a timeline. Let me just say maybe a video editing timeline. And I managed to play that 30 pictures in 1 second. That is 30 frames per second. If I stack up 60 pictures within 1 second, that means we are having 60 frames per second. If I have 120 frames or 120 pictures in a second, we have 120 frames per second. Okay, so at this point, if you've not subscribed to the channel, kindly click that subscribe button. Like this video. Your likes are very, very important as it helps this video get to other people. When you shoot with 60 FPS or higher frames per second, you see that the motion is kind of smoother compared to lower frames per second. Now, to illustrate this, I have my phone here. If you are shooting with your phone, just try this and you see it for yourself. If you are shooting with camera, it's still the same thing. Now, if I shoot at 1080, 30 frames per second, and I start doing this like this, if I start moving this phone like this, you can see the movement here. Now, simultaneously, as I'm doing this, I will switch to 60 FPS so that I can compare the difference. Do you notice any visible difference in the smoothness of the movement that I'm doing now? Now, in the same vein, I will switch to 120 FPS. Now, this is 120 FPS. You can see this 1080, 120 FPS on my screen. Now, let me switch to 240 FPS so that you can see the smoothness of this. You can see 240 FPS on my screen here. Then this is 480 FPS. This is 480 FPS. And this is 960 FPS. 960 FPS. Can you see this? And this is 1920 FPS. This is extreme slow motion. So when you want to shoot a video, whether you're using smartphone or you're using camera, be intentional of your shot. If you know that this scene, you will need to slow it down later during editing. Shoot at higher frames per second. Assuming your base frame rate is 30 FPS, if you shoot at 60 FPS, you can only slow it down 2 times. 60 divided by 30 is 2 now. Good. If you shoot at 120 FPS, 120 divided by 30, of course, is 4. Now, if you continue going like that, you tend to know the amount of slow motion you get. If you use camera to shoot your videos and maybe you stay outside America like Europe, Africa and so on, there is a chance that your camera is 25 FPS, 50 FPS and 100 FPS. It's not as if you don't have 30 FPS available to you. We have PAL and NTSC, but most cameras outside the United States usually shoot 25, 50 and 100. It has something to do with the frequency of our light. When you shoot at 60 FPS with your camera for some reason, it tends to show this, bar frequency of the light. Your light will be, kind of glittering. There's a word for it. There's a technical word for it actually. That is why those in America shoot with 30, 60 and 120 because the frequency of their lights are kind of different from those outside America. But overall, the process is the same thing. If you want 2 times slow motion, shoot at 50 FPS. If you want 4 times slow motion, shoot at 100 FPS because for you, your base frame rate is 25. Of course, 50 divided by 25 is 2. 100 divided by 25 is 4. So I believe with this, we've been able to illustrate the difference between 30 FPS, 60 FPS, 120 FPS and so on. If you've not subscribed to the channel, kindly click that subscribe button. Like this video. Your likes are very, very important as it helps this video get to other people. If you have a question or something you want me to talk about, maybe you want me to create a video on a particular topic, drop it in the comments and don't forget to turn on notifications so that when we drop videos like this, you will be informed. Thanks for watching. I will see you in my next video.